We're fortunate today to have Sandy Wentworth, Marketing Coordinator for Proven Winners. Sandy began her career as a home gardener for 16 years. She worked for 7 years in a nursery before moving on to Proven Winners. The name Proven Winners has become familiar to those of us who frequent nurseries as we prepare our flower gardens in the springtime. For me, Proven Winners has meant less deadheading, a wonderful choice of plants for my pots and my garden and my window boxes, and just really fun plants, something new. But a good plant in June is not always a good plant in August. And that, at least in my garden, I've had some trouble in keeping them going. So Sandy's going to not only tell us about all these wonderful plants, she's going to help us so that our plants look, when you go to the mall, and there are these great plants, and then you go home and you look at your pots, and if it's been a long, hard summer, they sometimes show it. So she's going to help us in learn how to keep our plants going. She's just back from the Proven Winners Pack Trials in California, where she got a peek at next year's plants, and she's got lots of plants for us to see today. Now, I'm just about to present her, but let me do one thing here first. We got a lot of people. We're going to give some things away today. I feel like Oprah. So we have a wonderful book called Pots in the Garden. And Sandy's birthday is on May 22nd. Do we have anybody here that has a birthday on May 22nd? Are you close to May 22nd? Judy. Oh, the 21st. Oh, can anybody beat that? Oh, okay. All right. Judy Allen. Okay. Well, please welcome Sandy Wentworth.
Well, welcome, gardeners. This is so exciting to be here today with you all, and I want to start off by telling you a little bit about Proven Winners. It's kind of complicated on all the steps it takes to get to you as gardeners. Proven Winners is made up of 3 propagators, and these propagators take liners, which are cuttings from the plants, and they sell them on to wholesalers. Our propagators, there's one in California, which is Euro-American. They actually started the whole business. Gary Gruber came to the U.S. and had an exclusive plant that they wanted to market over here, and John Rader from Euro was very interested in that, and that was the Scavolo whirlwind. Are any of you familiar with that particular plant? It likes sun, it likes hot and dry, and it just does really well. It's a nice hanging basket. And that plant actually started Proven Winners, where he lost my train of thought here. He got together with 2 other propagators. One was in Pleasant View Garden, and that's in New Hampshire, and the other one was Tom Smith in 4-Star. And he got together with these other growers and propagators, they propagate and grow, and said, hey, we want to promote plants that are trialed and tested and to be proven winners. And that's how they came up with this company, Proven Winners. So actually, Proven Winners is really a brand. Like you have a brand of clothing that you really like. Well, we are a brand of plants that have been trialed and tested. People go all over the United States, all over the country to find new varieties. I was, like Melanie had mentioned, I was at Pack Trials for the first time, and that's in California. And they introduced the '09 varieties. So I have today a sneak peek preview at a couple of the '09 varieties. Now, you won't see these to the market for a while. We've brought begonias, a new line of begonias. And I saw these and fell in love with them. This one is on the Mandalay. It's a single bloom. It's a single bloom begonia. And I love fuchsia, but you know, as a gardener, I have a hard time with fuchsia. And this reminds me so much of fuchsias. I'm like, oh my gosh. And up in the north here, it will take sun. So it will take sun, it'll take shade, and it reminds you of a fuchsia. And I also want to mention some of the plants don't look as good as they should, and that is probably because I've had them since Wednesday. They've been out of the greenhouse since Wednesday, and they've been in and out of my car for a few times and out of the cold. So they are holding up pretty darn good, but they have been through a little bit here since Wednesday. This is our Bellagio, and this is a double. And there's not too many more blooms on it, but it does have like a double bloom, and they kind of hang in a hanging basket. They kind of hang over and really, really remind you of a fuchsia. So those are coming out in '09. And it does take a little bit for these plants to come to market. I'm going to be going over today varieties that are from new for '08, and you may see them, you may not. But to get back to the propagators and how everything works with the propagation of the plants, they have a plant in Costa Rica, and there's actually two of them. They bought one for a backup in case any of the plants have diseases, and so they always have this backup plant where they can take cuttings from our plants. We don't produce any seeds. There's no seeds. You cannot get seeds for proven winners because they are all taken from cuttings. So every plant is taken from cuttings from the mother plant, started in liners, which our 3 propagators have, and they sell those to growers. And the growers grow them on into the 4 1/4 inch plants, which you find at your local garden center. So it kind of goes through a chain. I have retailers calling or consumers calling all the time and saying, where can I get this plant? Well, it's hard for us to tell you what particular plant the retailer has because we sell all over the United States. What we can tell you is if it's a proven winners, if it's a proven selections, we have a line of Spring Magic, which are cool tolerant plants, and we have a line of Fall Magic, which are tolerant for fall. A lot of those are perennials in there, a very small line of perennials. And we also have our color choice shrubs. And this is a new color choice shrub, the Pinky Winky. I love that name. And this is guaranteed to bloom on new wood and old wood. No matter what the soil is, it is guaranteed to bloom. The blooms are really big, and when they mature, they turn a deep pink, but the top stays white. I don't know if you can see or not. Pardon?
Is that a viburnum?
It's a hydrangea. It's a hydrangea, guaranteed to bloom. Very nice, and that is our new one. Also, the My Monet. This is a very, very, very cute Weigelia. Weigelia. Does anybody know how to really say that? Weigelia. This is My Monet. It doesn't get but 2 feet tall. It's a very nice border plant. Morning sun. This particular plant likes morning sun. It's a nice variegated plant. Morning sun is good for this. Afternoon sun, I think it would burn it up. Our propagator for the shrubs is a little bit different than our 3 propagators for the annuals and perennials. They are out of Michigan and called Spring Meadow. And they strictly sell liners, which are little liner plugs. Those little plants are so cute. And I usually get a lot of them, but I tell you what, it takes forever for them to grow. So I have said, I'm not taking home any more liners, give me the big stuff. So I've had My Monet, I've had a liner for 3 years now, and it's probably half the size of this. So it does take a little bit for those to grow, and being liner form, it's like, I think I need a little bit bigger ones because I don't have time to wait. So, and they are, we also have propagators up in Canada, so we are everywhere. We have, this year, our office is busting at the seams with calls of viewers. And Proven Winners is actually, it's a great company. I'm so fortunate to work for them. Their motto is to help gardeners succeed. So they really go out and see what people need and want, and we've started to ask questions and have surveys online to find out what you, as the customers, really want. This year, and I have saved you all one step already, because in a lot of the ads, the consumer ads, Martha Stewart, Oprah, we have an ad for a free Gardener's Idea book. So when you call that number, we take your name and address, and we give you a free Gardener's Idea book. We send it to you. So I don't know if anybody has seen the ad in any of the magazines yet. Have you? Have you called in for it? Oh, good, good. It takes a long time. See, you're getting one sooner now. So we did save you that one step today, and of course all of you do have that. We have a different ad in the Country Living because we do have a line of Country Living. These are plants that Country Living Garden Magazine has chosen, and every year they choose 6 new ones, and so they put together a combination in this one, different. We're going to go over a little bit about containers because it's getting the season and everybody is getting so excited. It's been a pretty dark winter. So driving here today, the sun was out. It was so nice. Just that little bit helped. But with the plants we had, put together a combination. And I like to tell people, when choosing a combination, try to coordinate your plants with each other and with the container. Now, this didn't turn out too bad considering what I had to work with, because I wasn't going to put a container together, and the last minute, my sister-in-law has a garden center up north. I go, do you have any containers? She goes, oh yeah. So we went over and got a container, and she helped me put together a combination. I've been able to see P. Allen speak a little bit. I've learned a lot about container gardening from him. He is like an amazing designer. You all have his Hot 21 list, and they've upped it this year to the Hot 24. So he has added some more plants. He's based out of Arkansas, so a lot of the plants he likes are, will take the heat and the drought. The flambe I wanted to mention, we do have a yellow. This is the yellow flambe and the orange flambe. They both look yellow to me, but the difference is the foliage. That's the only difference. These like it really hot and dry. I went to a Master Gardeners Convention this last year, and I had a whole basket of this at the convention, and people were going crazy over it. I've also had retailers call and say they can't give this plant away at retail. Well, it doesn't look real good in the 4-inch container, but it's what we call our grandmother's plant. If you want to give it to your grandmother, she doesn't water it, that's fine, because it's not going to die. So that is our grandmother plant, and it is really a very unique plant. But some retailers do have trouble because of the looks of it in a small container. So it does get better. It does get better. So in our container we have the Nemesia, which is one of the plants that is in the combination of the Pure Magic, actually in our ad for the Gardener's Idea book. And it does have a slight fragrance. You might want to come up and smell it after the show. And it will bloom all summer. This plant will turn different colors. It will take part shade, and it'll get, I think it's more purple in shade. And in the sun it gets a little bit more pink. That's a Nemesia, and it's called Opal Innocence. Very nice plant. Another nice Nemesia is the Bluebird. That will go all summer. I put that in the shade in one little container, and it blooms all summer long. We have our Juncus, and this Juncus grass, it's called Quasar Creek, and it is a perennial. I live in Sycamore, Illinois, which is, I don't know, a few hours from here. And it actually stays green. It turns a little bit darker green, but it's one of those plants that kind of stays green all winter, so it gives you a little bit of interest in the winter. And this is our new heuchera. It's the black, let's see, what was that one? Black currant. And the heuchera is also a perennial. So a lot of times you can mix your perennials in with your annuals. The coleus, of course, those you really have to be careful when you put them out because they are the first to go in the cold. So I try to find plants that will take you all the way through from spring to fall. A lot of what P. Allen does is he uses a lot of coleus, and do not be afraid to use coleus in your containers. You might think that they get overgrown, but you know what? You can cut them anytime. You can keep them pretty much contained to the size you want them. And what he does is he takes a leaf out of the coleus and he picks all the colors from the coleus and puts them in his containers. I was at 4-Star one time and he did a blue container. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Amazing. He had a huge blue container and he started off with the thriller, the tall plant. And it is kind of hard to get taller plants. The coleus you can use as the taller plant. He used one, it was a Angelonia, which is a very good heat tolerant, which goes all summer too. It's very nice, gets about 14 inches tall, 12 to 14 inches tall. It was a shade of blue, and then he went for the filler plant, and he put a 4th shade lighter blue, and then the spiller plant, he put a 4th shade lighter blue. I think it was a bacopa, the blue bacopa. And it was absolutely amazing. He also mentions in one of his books about how to utilize your indoor space with your outdoor space to kind of make it flow, so your outside flows into your inside and vice versa. He uses the same colors as his rooms and puts out on the patio the same color, so when you look out, you see the same color and it kind of is an extension of your room. And I thought that was a very good way to garden. If you don't know what colors you want to use, you can kind of go by the inside of your home and put those same colors out in that same room. Like I said before, we are here to help gardeners succeed. We do have a line of soil, which I forgot. Most of our products you can get at garden centers. A lot of it you can get online. I think the soil is the only thing that we haven't been able to get online. The fertilizers, does anybody fertilize regularly? I hope so. This is our continuous release fertilizer, and it is the only fertilizer I know of that has iron in it. The iron helps the plant absorb the nutrients it needs when it gets really hot. I usually mix a little bit of compost in my soils if they're really light. Does anybody compost? Good for you. Good for you. I saw a few years ago, what was her name? Trudy Templeton. She was amazing. And she has an amazing garden. And about how she went out to dig the holes, she showed a slide. And she had like a huge hole and all this trash. She had cardboard and food scraps. And she just buries it in a hole. And when that hole is sunken, it's ready to plant. So she puts a plant there. I thought she was a truly amazing woman. And she told the story also of how to save on her rooms, she has a van, and she sleeps in her van so she can save on motel room to buy plants. So I thought that was so cute. She was an amazing woman. But anyway, I put some of the continuous release. You're supposed to apply this twice a year. There's directions on the back. And I mix it in with my soil because in August, when it's really, really hot, it's going to kick in. And this is going to give your plants the added nutrients it needs. You just sprinkle it in, mix it in the soil, and twice a year you add the continuous release. It releases by heat, so when it gets above 70 degrees, that's when it activates. We have the water-soluble fertilizer as well, and this has iron in it too. It is a 24-12-17. A little story about a retailer called me last year, and she called me 3 times. And finally I said, Melanie, what are you doing? I said, you have called 3 times to order fertilizer. And she goes, well, she says, I put 2 plants side by side, used another fertilizer and your fertilizer, and it sells itself. And I was like truly amazed when I first used it too. It is a very good fertilizer, very good. It doesn't hurt to use them together because this is going to really, really kick in August when your plants really need fertilized. And if you fertilize weekly, when it gets to be August, your plants are going to look just as good as when you bought them because they do need nutrients. The flowers that come, they come out of the greenhouses and they fertilize them heavy to get them to flower like this. And then when you take them home, if you do not fertilize, you're pretty much starving them. So they do like to be fertilized. I said if you can't do it weekly, at least monthly, and it will help continue your plants. Most of the time, proven winners, they are what they say they are. They've been trialed, they've been tested. Some of them may come to the market a little bit early or may work in better regions than other. And they usually you get sick of them. I've had people call and say, you know what, I'm sick of my plants by the time November comes, and then they just quit watering them because it's been such a long spell. It is quite a while, but my plants go all season long. And I do try to get plants that will carry through, so I only have to interchange. Like this particular one, I can probably, by the time the fall comes, the only plant that I will have to replace would be the coleus. Because the coleus, as soon as that first cold hits, it nips it. All you have to do is take that one plant out, put another one in for more cool tolerant, and that's the only thing you would have to replace. So think about when you're out shopping, think about the beginning, think about the end, so that you can get plants that will carry you through, so you don't have to purchase like a whole new container. Something new that we came up with was our water-wise system. We want to help you guys succeed, so we thought, well, when people go on vacation or hanging baskets is really why we designed it, because hanging baskets are so hard to water, and you get them and they're absolutely gorgeous. Well, they've been fertilized a lot, but they've also been thoroughly watered. A lot of times what happens with hanging baskets is you think that you're watering them thoroughly because water's rushing out the bottom. Because what happens is it runs along the top and rushes down the bottom. So you think it's thoroughly getting watered, and it's not. So we did create this drip system, and we are currently, because it's so new, we are currently trying to find a timer so that we have one package that you can get. Just whole package, take it home, it's simple, and voila. You put it on the timer and it will water your plants. It's good for hanging baskets because it's a drip system and it waters it slowly and thoroughly. The only thing you need with this one would be a timer, and you can get that almost anywhere. And you hook the timer up to your faucet and this little piece up to the faucet, and this goes to the timer, and then the hose hooks on to this section. And it comes with 100 feet of hose, and the tubing is very pliable so that you can almost bend it 90 degrees and it's not going to crimp. It's not going to lose water pressure. If you take it 200-300 feet down, you can use it in your landscape, you can use it in your containers. It's great for when you're going on vacation. But it's very simple to use. You just cut it to the length you need it, and there is a T that you put the T for the one to go in either container or landscape, and then it has a little dripper that you put. And you can go down to different, we're cut. You can go down to different containers and hanging baskets, and it blends in well. It's a nifty little gadget, and if I can put it together, anyone can put it together. It's very simple put together. So the only thing we are lacking with that is a timer. So they're always thinking. It's like maybe not all together, but eventually they get it together and ask people what they are needing and wanting. I just want to talk a little bit about Proven Winners. He's promoting some of our plants. A lot of people say, is he your spokesperson? No, he is not our spokesperson, but he does promote Proven Winners, and he has quite a line of Proven Winners that he has had really good luck with. This year, I went over the new varieties for '09. Another one in '09 is going to be our, I can't think of it, pelargonium, which is a geranium. We've never had a geranium in the line of Proven Winners, and we've decided to go ahead and do a line of geranium. I used to hate geranium, but as time went on, I found out how much color they give. Lots of color. So I'm starting to really like geraniums. Also, I one day was going by a house in town, and their landscape, I always look at landscapes to see, what people do, and if I can use that in my yard or what better they can do for their landscape. And this lady, she was amazing. Her planters were all nice and her landscaping was very nice, and she had color all summer long. Well, the next year, same thing. So I thought I would take a walk down and see what actually she's doing to get the color to go through her whole yard all summer long. Well, she did have a lot of annuals. I was very surprised to see how the annuals she had in her containers, she also had a few here and there in the yard. So that when your perennials bloom, it's kind of an added bonus with these annuals in, because they are going to bloom all summer long. A lot of times it's worth it. Now, Melanie had mentioned about propagating, and I just want to touch base on a little bit of propagating. We do have plant police that go out to greenhouses, because all of our plants do have to have a tag with them. And that is to control illegal propagating, which greenhouses I could do easily enough. But our plants have been patented and trademarked, so they all have to have the Proven Winner plant with them. Now, you as a gardener can propagate pretty much anything. The only thing you cannot do is to resell it. So if you propagate it for yourself or you give it away, not a problem. That's why I love coleus, because coleus are so easy. You can cut those, stick them in the dirt, and it's kind of like you get a few plants out of one. It's an easy way. Coleus are great. I love coleus. Okay, so we've gone over everything. Now we get to the good part, because we're going to need plants to go in our containers and in our landscape. And so I want to go over the PowerPoint and show you the new varieties for '09. So these are the new varieties. A lot of times it takes years and years for these to come to the market. When I was in Euro, I don't think I finished my thought, but when I was in Euro, they had an area that had a ton. This is our Calibrachoa. They had a ton of Calibrachoa in this area. And my boss was like, yeah, look at all the Calibrachoa. There were hundreds and hundreds of them. And that was our trial area for new varieties. And out of those hundreds of plants, there were only going to be about 5 chosen for the next year, which would be in 2010. So it takes a lot of trialing. They pick 5 plants. A lot of other breeders do the same thing, and then they bring their 5 plants, and then out of probably 100, there's only a handful that are picked. So it takes a while for a new plant to come, and then it does have to be trialed and tested. So they trial it, or they test it for diseases, and they trial it in a lot of the university gardens all over the U.S. So it brings for a good plant and really give it trials to make it good. Okay. All I had to do is push the button, right? Pat?
What did you do?
I don't know. I was going to push the button. I didn't do a thing.
Ignore it. It just went. Oh, am I going the wrong way?
Yeah.
There.
There.
Okay, there's your
Now
beginning.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, what'd I do again?
A couple times. Hit the down arrow.
Oh, there. Okay. Down and up. Okay, so, okay, this is our new Artist Rose. It's an Argyranthemum. This, Ageratum, sorry. Very good, very good. Ageratums, I take care of a lady's yard, and she loves these things. They are very heat tolerant. She has me put in a really nice border, and they bloom all summer. This is a nice pink one. It's great in the landscape, great in containers, full sun, part shade, gets about 6 to 10 inches high. and they bloom all summer long. They do have another one that's a little bit more purple, and then they have these in blue as well. Oh, I'm going the wrong way with arrow, that's why. This is the angel face, the angelonia that I was telling you about that goes all summer long. It really likes hot heat. I put this on the west side, and it goes all summer long. It gives a nice height, 10 to 14 inches tall. You can put it, I put it in the landscape, but you know, it was much more striking in a container. And it comes in the white, improved. They also have a bicolored one that's very pretty. If you can find that, that's a very pretty one. And the molimba, these are the argyranthemums. Dark pink flowers. They bloom spring through summer. A lot of the argyranthemums do need to be deadheaded. A lot of our plants don't, but this is one that does better if it is. And our super bells. Super bells, you may think that these are related to the petunia family, but they're really not. They're calibrachoa, and they are from South Africa, and they like to be taken care of, like South Africa. So when it rains, it pours. They really like to be saturated, and then they do like to be dried out. If they don't have good drainage, or if their roots sit in water, they will go down, they'll get root rot, and they'll go down fast, like that, and you can't bring them back. Last year was the best year I've had. The first year I ever tried these, it was like I must have watered them too much because they just, for 2 years, I couldn't get it right. Finally, last year, I had the best luck with these. I put them on the west side, watered them only when the soil was dry. So how I've had good luck with testing for water, because it's hard to say, okay, how do you water? How do you tell someone how to water? You know, when it's hotter, you water more. When it's cooler, you water less. What I have found works for me, and as gardeners, you know, what works for some people don't work for others. But that's what I love about gardeners. They're willing to share anything they've tried that works for them. I stick my finger in about 1 inch down. If I feel any moisture at all with these calibrachoas, I let them go a day longer, because you're going to end up killing them more by water than without water. So if you still feel a little bit of moisture there, they'll make it until the next day and be fine. And when you water them really good, really good. I usually leave about 1 inch of soil down on my containers. So when I water, I fill it up to the brim and let that soak down, and then I give it another water up to that brim, and that way I know it's really soaking down to the roots. One lady had called, and she had a hanging basket, and I water it every day. I take my cup of water out every day. I said, yeah, you need to give it a little bit more water than a cup. But the calibrachoas are nice. We do have the new dreamsicle. We have a dreamsicle, and we have an apricot punch. And they're a really nice orange. P. Allen happens to be a little bit afraid of orange. He says use it sparingly in the garden. I love orange. My house is like terracotta, so I love terracotta pots because you can never overwater in them. There are different containers that, there's metal containers where you can leave out all season. I myself try to stay away from the plastic containers except for the hanging baskets, but a lot of times what they're doing now is they have those like pressed cardboard hangers now that are pretty cool coming out. But I do have a tendency to overwater in plastic, so that's one container that I try to stay away from. A lot of times they're good though because they are a little bit lighter weight, and they are making them now so that they look like cement containers and metal containers, so they are nice too to use for if you want to move them and they're not as heavy. This is another calibrachoa yellow chiffon that's new this year. Every year I sign myself up for the garden writers list. I'm not a garden writer, but I said, you know what, I need to trial these plants too and see how they're going to do. So every year I get a box of plants for the new varieties, and I got this last year, and bloomed all season. Bloomed all season. You want to fertilize them well, and they would do a lot better for you. This is the new dreamsicle. It's really a pretty orange. Nice in hanging baskets. You can use it as a ground cover in the ground. I haven't tried that yet, so I don't have experience with that. But I do know in containers and hanging baskets, it's really nice. Gives a lot of color. And our scarlet is pretty too. Very, very nice. These you do really need to be careful about that root rot though. And the saffron has the little bit of a red center. Full sun. These like full sun. And the apricot punch is an exclusive to independent centers. We try to help the independent gardens, and that's kind of how Proven Winners really got out there, is with the independent garden centers. We have put together a training tool for them, which we call the Certified Program. And every year we send them information about our plants that they can train their employees with. So that's just taken off this year too. So our office is pretty hopping right now. But this program goes out, they view the material we send them, they take the test, send it in, and that's how they become certified. This particular plant can only be sold in independent garden centers. The other one, the dreamsicle, is, I believe, a home improvement exclusive where you can only get it at home improvements. And I hate to say, but the retailers were a little bit uptight when some of our plants went to the home improvement centers. But we have customers calling all the time wanting our plants, and it's like we just want to get them out there so they're available to the customers. And they're starting to be better with it. They kind of realize, what we're doing. So they are getting a little bit better with that. I've only had a few calls this year trying to explain things. And our trailing white calibricola, am I going the wrong way again? White is really nice. It really lightens up a dark spot. If you have a darker spot and want to lighten it up. Totally Tempted. This is our new Kufia. It's a little bit more compact. Brilliant color. It's very drought tolerant. The only thing last year, I told my boss I got this in with a bunch of plants, and I figured that they would be okay until I got home. And I was really surprised to see this particular plant looking the worst when I got home. I said, well, as far as being so drought tolerant, it sure didn't seem like it. But the key word to the drought tolerant is after it's established. I found out when I put it in, it likes real well-drained soil. I put it out in some rocks by the road. After it got established, I didn't have to touch it. It was very heat and drought tolerant. Gets about 6 to 12 inches tall. It's nice in the ground. It's nice in a container. A lot of times it's hard to find red for the garden. And red is a nice color for the garden. I've really went to red. Last year I had a lot of red. The luscious grape lantana likes it hot and dry. And again, this is another one. After it's established, I think it's the key word. I like to put this one in the ground. It's kind of like a ground cover. It's a very nice plant. And the other new one is the lemonade. Spring through summer. Our Bermuda Beach, Supertunia. I don't think I brought any Supertunia. I did not bring the bubblegum Supertunia. We have a new line of Vista Supertunias, which are our first landscape petunias. The bubblegum looks like that bazooka bubblegum. It's really pretty. Very good landscape petunia. It can get up to 2 feet tall in your landscape. It's very nice to coordinate a container of the bubblegum and then coordinate it with your landscape, and it kind of just makes your whole yard flow. There's a house when I go help the lady with her roses and annuals that they have a huge container out front, very nice container. And she had a combination in it, and then she had a planter attached to her house, which was longer, and she had plants that coordinated with the larger container, which was very nice. And every time I drove by there, I knew there was something wrong. And one day, it hit me. She had nice plants, same combination, my eye was flowing. And then over here by her lampshade, she had that mossy stuff, totally different. And it was just like, stopped me in my tracks. Now, if she would have had the same plants as she used in the other planters, it really would have made my eye flow through the whole yard. So I did realize that going through there. It's like, oh yeah, it really does make your eye flow if you do use the same containers that are in your planters in your landscape. Kind of makes you flow through the whole yard. The Bermuda Beach is a nice one because it's more of a little bit of a salmony pink. And supertunias really, because they bloom so profusely, really should be fertilized every time you water. They really should. Ours need no deadheading, and they don't really get leggy. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I want those Wave. Wave is a brand. It's another brand than the Proven Winners brand. A lot of ours do not get leggy. A way to help prevent them getting leggy, which I usually don't have to worry about, especially the one in our magazine, the Bordeaux. It's a vein petunia. I look for that petunia every year because I have had such good luck with it. I hardly fertilize it, which I know I should fertilize. Come August, it looks, even if I fertilize it once a month, it looks just as good as when I got it. It does not get leggy, and it is a tremendous petunia. I can't say enough about that one. A lot of them, this one that I did get, I didn't fertilize that much, which I should have every time, but I'm busy and I don't have a whole lot of time. So is what I do probably in July, when I know it's really been hot, I will start snipping at it here and there, and I will start fertilizing it a lot more. If you fertilize it earlier, it will help carry it through the whole summer and those hot months. But at the end of July, I'll take and snip it here and there. It kind of just rejuvenates the plant. There's still blooms on it. Maybe the next week I'll do a little bit more snipping. And of course, cutting helps promote growth, so it does get a little bit stockier and fuller too. But that's a good way that you can carry those petunias through the whole season so they don't get leggy, because a lot of them do get leggy. And ours they just kind of bury themselves. The blooms bury themselves, so you really don't have to deadhead them. We want to make it easy, especially we know how much time it takes to garden, and if you have one less thing to do, then that's a good thing. Our linen white Tarina. This is very nice. It takes shade. It'll take full shade. And you know, shaded areas, how it usually needs to be lightened up. The new linen white really does lighten up an area. It also comes in pinks and purples. They almost look like little snapdragons. And I put these in full shade, and they love it. They love it. About 10 to 12 inches high, full sun, part shade, but they will take full shade. Our new line this year is the Rocapoco series, the Impatiens. These are double Impatiens. Very heat tolerant. And they bloom all season long, 10 to 12 inches tall. And they come in red, white, orchid rose, purple, dark orange, and apple blossom. And this is the black currant that we have in the container. Rich burgundy color. The leaves are a little bit more beefy, and it's a little bit more compact plant. But the foliage, most of the time the heucheras are foliage plant. P. Allen Smith says you should use half and half foliage and half blooming in your containers to make for a good container. And this does well in part shade. This is another new heuchera, Canyon Duet. It's a nice dainty. The leaves are really dainty, but it does have a pack full of bloom when it does bloom. Drought tolerant once it's established. And it is a perennial zone 5 to 8. Did y'all hear that they changed the zone? That's a little bit scary. Because it's like, I don't know. I have microclimates in my yard, which I do. We're zone 5. We're about 50 miles west of Chicago. And I do have a lot of microclimates in my yard, which are areas that will take a zone higher. And I have had success with zone 6. But I think I'd be pushing zone 7. I don't know if I want to try too many of those. And that is our presentation for proven winners. And remember, a better plant starts with a better plant. Better garden starts with a better plant. Thank you very much.
This is our first question. Does flowering in coleus or lamb's ears weaken or shorten the span of life? Do you think sometimes we feel when we see a plant flowering, we need to get rid of that flower? And I think that's when we think of vegetables, we think of that sometimes. But when you see
Yeah,
a
with
coleus,
coleus,
something, a foliage
with-
plant.
With coleus, they always say to take the blooms off. If you like them, they're really not for the bloom, they're really for the foliage. So a lot of times when you do take off the bloom, it does help the plant. So with the coleus, I always take off the bloom because I don't think they're very attractive. They're mainly used for their foliage. And also coleus, when you put them, coleus will take sunshade, it'll take any kind of light. So they do turn different colors in the shade, so they're not as vibrant as in the sun. But I myself would get rid of the blooms on the coleus,
Yeah, and-
unless you like them.
Yeah. Am I correct that there's some coleus that they say is wonderful in full sun, and some coleus is not wonderful in full sun? Is that true? It depends on.
I guess
on
it
the-
depends on the variety.
Yeah. So we
Ours
should
will
just-
take either full
Okay.
sun or
Okay.
full shade.
If a tag says sunshade, does that mean full sun and full shade? We're getting kind of technical, but you do sometimes wonder, because there are different ways of expressing those things.
Right, right. Most of the time, if it does say full sun to full shade, it will take both conditions.
Okay.
And you could even put it in between there somewhere. Sometimes plants are kind of funny because you can have the ideal condition for them and they still don't do anything. And if you do get that, I always suggest moving it, just because for some odd reason, just doesn't like it there. If it's the soil or if it just doesn't like the conditions, it's always good. And if you do container planting, it's easier to move them. But sometimes they just are finicky. And the same thing, do you guys know why if you have 3 plants, you put them in the ground and one dies? They're both in the same spot. That happens a lot, and I don't know if it is because of the soil conditions or if it's getting a little bit different light in that one area, but I know a lot of people have had that, and I've had it myself, and that's kind of a mystery to me. So if anybody knows that question, we would like the answer to it.
I'd like you to pretend that you have a planter on the north side of your home, and it gets full shade. What would you plant in that planter?
In that planter, that's great because I have 2 planters on my house that are on the north side, and I usually end up putting the Torina in there. That's the best plant I have found for those planters. The Torina,
Taurinia,
Torinia,
I think so.
Torinia. That is the one that comes in white, pink, and purple. I have also put Helleborus in those planters, which did okay. Did okay. But the Torina, it was a very good plant for those particular planters because they get no sun whatsoever. And they did fine. They did really good, actually, in those.
Good. Do you have anything that we should plant if we're going to have a lot of deer walking through our yard that you're sure you think the deer won't eat?
Deer, oh yeah. Yeah, my sister-in-law has a deer problem, so I know all about that. I don't have too big of a deer problem. One thing with deer, if they're hungry enough, they're going to eat anything. Good plants to get are plants that they do not like pulmonaria. They do not like those because of the texture, and plants that have a scent they do not like. So, but like I say, if they are hungry enough, they're going to get in your stuff. There was something that you can put in sashes. I know home improvement centers have all kinds of deer repellent, deer resistant, but I don't really have that problem, so I don't have one that works really well for me. I think that deer fence my sister-in-law said worked pretty good, but you have to keep applying it when it rains. Blood meal? You know, that might be what they put in sashes.
Yeah, we've put that, we've even actually seen the deer walk up and they'll sniff a little and they'll just turn themselves around and
Good.
disappear.
Okay, blood meal. So you can put those in sashes around your yard?
Buy those things and they kind of look like the top of a spray paint can and you stick those down in the ground. They're kind of expensive, but you can then pop the top off of that and then we refill it with that blood meal and stick it
Oh,
down in
sure.
there. And so you don't have to go buy more of those.
Blood meal or new plant?
Yep. Yeah. And mill organite sometimes works. I think there are some other things too. All right, this person lives by a lake and they're being asked not to fertilize.
Not to fertilize, use compost. Do a natural
Okay.
compost where you take your scraps out and leaf clippings and do a compost. That would be the more
Yeah. And
environmentally safe way.
Do you ever make compost tea? Do you hear
You
about
know
that?
what? Yes, compost tea. I actually don't think I quite have down the compost thing. I've done it for probably about 3 years now, and I really don't think I have it down quite right. But I got me a container, and last year I thought, okay, I'm going to put it up on a pallet. So I put it up on a pallet so it was easier to reach, and I put a screen under it, and I had like a sled thing that slides under there. And I thought, oh, this will be great. It'll all, disintegrate and fall through, and I'll have this nice compost in my little sled. Well, you know what I ended up getting was compost tea, because I don't think my screen's big enough for it to fall through. So, yeah, if
The
you
moisture came out.
put it up on a finer screen, mine, it does have probably an inch screen, like an inch square. And the compost I have not gotten to fall through there like I wanted to. But I tell you what, when I pour water through it, I have a very nice compost tea. So I've been doing that. Plus then I just open the door and use the compost out of the bin, since I haven't quite got that down yet.
If you're going to have, in order to name a plant a proven winner, in order for proven winners to use a plant and market it, what characteristics does that plant have to have?
Well, first of all, it has to be beautiful. It has to do well in the trial gardens. So what does the breeder picks the nicest looking plant for branching and blooms, and then the partners get together with other people and they choose from there, and then they put it in trial gardens all over the United States and see which ones perform the best with neglect, because they put those in the trial gardens. They usually go in the ground and they don't water them. And then they see, I was in Ohio at the Ohio State Trial Gardens a couple years ago, and one of the petunias there, the Raspberry Blast, it was amazing. They had put it in, and it was in July when we saw it, and it was looking good. And that happened to be one of the picks the year before. So they do all kinds of trialing for them, and they have to be heat resistant and drought resistant and
This person was concerned about the super bells being prone to root rot.
yeah, you really do have to be careful. Like I say, it took me a couple years to
Yeah.
really get down the watering on those. And the key thing to those is well-drained soil. Try a terracotta pot, because you can never overwater in a terracotta pot. The terracotta kind of sucks up the extra water. And you want just a well-drained soil. And don't overwater it. Don't overwater it.
Do you ever suggest mixing anything into the soil to give it better drainage? Something other
You
than just the
can-
soil you buy?
You can mix like a peat moss or perlite. Perlite would help give you a better drainage and make the soil a little bit lighter. A lot of people have had luck with that soil moist, where you can put that in the soil. I have not used it personally, so I do not have experience with it, but from what I've heard is you have to be careful in watering and when it rains. So if it gets too much rain, they turn to like
Kind of
a
gelatinous
gel type.
And that's more for
they
just
hold.
a plant that needs more water, right?
Yes, yes.
Rather than less.
I do not recommend using that with calibrachoa.
No.
Because I think it would hold the water too much and the roots would get too moist with that. But yeah, perlite would be one to help with the soil drainage. You can mix some rocks, like in the bottom, you can put rocks in the bottom. One of the Gardener's Pathways that I was at, we had come up with ideas as far as containers because sometimes they're so big and to save on soil, so we were going back and forth with different things. And the peanuts was really good, and I said, I hate those because when you dump out the soil, and I always compost my soil, I throw it back in my compost, you have all those peanuts in there. So I hate that, and she had mentioned that she uses a orange bag, you know, the bag that oranges come in, it's kind of like a mesh, and she fills the peanuts up with that and throws it in her container, which works really good.
Oh, that's a
which
good idea.
Is a good.
Or nylon,
Cans
oh, that's a
work
good
well,
idea.
yes. Cans.
Yeah,
work
and someone
well.
suggested nylon hose. You could take old nylon hosiery and
Oh.
fill that with peanuts.
Oh.
That's a good idea.
That's a
very
good idea.
idea.
Yes. They also have a product out called Upsidaisy, which is kind of just a plastic round saucer that fits different sizes that you can put in there. And that too helps so your container's not so heavy.
Do you winter perennials in pots?
I do. I have one thing that worked really well, and this was a couple years after I started, and I was totally amazed. I had the carex grass, the orange sedge, and it is a annual grass, and I had it kind of way out there, and I had the angelonia in there, which is a sedum, and that is a zone 3. And that thing, I kept coming into work every day, and I said, my container, the other plant I had in there died, of course, but through the end of November, I was like, oh my gosh, my container still looks good out there. That angelonia is like a really, really bright green, so that stood out, and then the brown carex. And so I kept coming in, still the end of November. Well, then finally we got winter. And it was so weird because that next spring, I look out my window and I see the same container with the angelonia coming back. So I got that little limey green coming back. And the carex was dead, but it still looked alive because it's the brownish. And when I went out there and touched it, it came up. But it still looked like I had a container planted in there. So some perennials will overwinter if they're a lower zone. They always say, like if it's a zone 3, in a container it's actually a zone 4. So I would look for those really low zonage plants that may come back, may not. Some of the heucheras do. A lot of times what kills the plant in the planter is the freezing and thawing. So if you put it on the north side where it doesn't get the sun, it's more apt to weather over, or like in a garage too.
Does Proven Winners have a vine that is fast growing for an arbor?
We do not have a huge line of vines. We have the creeping wire vine, but I believe that is more of an annual vine. That would not be something that would fill up a big trellis. Now, if you are looking for something which is I can suggest something, it's very aggressive, for one thing, so you have to have the area for it, and it does shoot up little seedlings all over, and that is a trumpet vine. I have, it's amazing, I really wish I had a picture of my trumpet vine. I do on my phone, if anybody wants to see it. But I have over my double garage, I could not find a trellis to go double wide. They only make single wide trellises. So I did a homemade trellis with a TV antenna. And so it goes all the way across. And I needed an aggressive vine to go on there. So I do have a trumpet vine that goes up and all the way across double wide. So it's pretty impressive when it's blooming. It bloomed a really long time this year. And I used to have people go by and say, we got to bet on if that thing makes it to meets in the center, and it finally did, and now it just automatically does, but it's amazing. And it also attracts hummingbirds, so I have little hummingbirds.
You know, I think it's interesting when you bring that up. There's a point at which you don't want to borrow trouble.
Right, right.
But, you know, people say sometimes, well, that plant spread. I knew it spread. I'm not going to get that plant again. Well, sometimes this plant does spread a little bit. I mean, that's part of growing.
Yes.
And someone once said to me, you know, that's what gardening's all about, isn't it? I mean, are you going to garden, or are you just going to put something in the ground and leave it there and expect it to behave perfectly all the time? So part of gardening is saying, oh, honey, you got too big. I'm going to put part of you
Yes.
over here, and that kind of thing. So I think we sometimes a plant like your trumpet vine is great for just your situation,
Yes, sometimes it's
and
not.
you just have to keep your eye on it, or it'll.
Yeah, we just
eat your
mow
house.
off the little suckers and they go. One thing you can do if you do have an aggressive plant that you really do like and you really want it, you can plant it in the container and it will help keep it contained in that area. So,
What are proven winner products you brought? They said they saw something up there you didn't mention. It was a soap.
Thank you.
of
Thank
some
you for
kind.
bringing that up because I always forget our Gardener Good line. This is a line that we brought for gardeners for their hands. We have a sandalwood soap or lotion, which is very good. Some people don't like the scent, but it has a very nice, clean, fresh scent. These products are all plant-based, and that's why we brought them on our store. And I got to go visit them. The company is out of Kansas City, and very unique company. She started out of her basement and formed all of these soaps. The soap has poppy pumice in it, so it does help get the dirt off your nails. It's got a lip balm. Lip balm, if you like perfume, it kind of, you can taste the lavender in it. And I always feel like I have perfume on my lips. So I really, it's a good product, but I really don't like the scent of it for my lips. The shea butter, the rosemary mint is very nice for cuticles. If you rub into your cuticles, it's a little bit greasy, but it's really good if you have dry hands and cuticles. And also we have a muscle rub. But I did get to go to the company, and she's now in like a Morton building, and just amazed. It was just an amazing company. They were able to bring their pets to work, which I thought was pretty cool. So we walked in and met with them, and everybody had their animals, and they were just lounging around waiting for their boys to get done. So their soaps, one other cool thing is too, with their soaps, they do let it cure, so it takes like months and months before it's ready. And we got to go back in the warehouse, and there were like huge blocks of soap, and then they cut them. But it was a pretty cool company. And I did want to mention a lot of the products we do have online. A lot of times retailers will carry them too. We have had a lot more orders for the Gardener Goods, so it just depends on the retailers in your area. And you can find retailers in your area if you go to our website. Locate a retailer. Lady was asking about a garden center. There's a couple in town. My niece had showed me coming in. There are a couple in town, and she did say the one did carry a lot of proven winners. So.
You know, you mentioned your website. I will say that I have the Proven Winners website has more ideas on the way to combine different annuals in your pots in planting. It's really worth going to. I have a little PowerPoint presentation thing for container plants that I piddle with, and but I did go to the internet and I got a lot of ideas from the Proven Winners website. So if you have an opportunity to pull that up, it is filled with good information and good ideas for containers. Really good. Does Proven Winners have any plans to replace the plastic pots with recyclables or biodegradable containers? Do you know?
We have been checking into that. We haven't got anything together yet, but we really are looking into that because it, with the environmental and the green, everybody going green, we're looking into it. But as of now, we haven't found anything that has been proven.
Oh, perfect. This is a little bit off the subject. I hope you noticed the coffee cups today. Project Green has gone green.
Yay!
These are, yay, they're recyclable. So, and if anybody else has a situation where you need to use a lot of cups for people, or even in your home, all I did was go to International Paper on the internet, and someone sent me a little article where it had been written about that they had now recyclable containers. So you can get them through the internet. So, that's all right. So, are there any other questions that I've missed, huh? Well, it's been great.
The website?
The-
The website is provenwinners.com. It's right on the back of the Gardener's Idea books.
Yeah.
Also, when you're going to the garden center, I did forget to mention that there is a ton of information on the back of our tags, and they are designed so you just have to pull it down to read all the information. It'll tell you if it'll take sun, shade, what zone it's in, a ton of information. Another cute little thing we've started putting on there is cute little sayings. And let me find one of our newer tags. We've started putting cute little sayings on. This one says, "I'm more low maintenance than your other relationships." So they come up. Gardening's supposed to be fun, so we
Okay.
decided to
That's
add
great.
that.
Well, now we're going to give away some plants, and I am going to just draw some numbers out of this pile. So we're not just going to go 1 through 9. We're going to first person gets to come up and pick a plant. There are a couple that she can't let this
Yeah.
have because they're for
Those
next
right there.
year. But number 8, does anybody have a number 8?
Yay!
Oh, well, come on up and pick a plant.
From here.
Number 1,
Grab a plant.
it's number 1. Did we have a number 1? Oh, good. Followed by number 9.
Oh,
There you go.
I don't know if I have
Followed
this
by,
one. No, don't pick those. I can't give the
okay.
O9s away.
Followed by number 3.
I know, aren't they pretty? And spring's coming. Spring is coming.
Sandy, one of your little stakes is under that chair.
Oh, thank you.
Number 2.
You're welcome. Hi. That's exempt. Yes, because that's not my
right in
container,
here.
just right in here, yeah. Just
And number
in
5.
here. How are you? Good, thank you. Okay. I got that container at CJ's in Mason City, Iowa.
I can't imagine I did 1 through 9. Did I miss anybody? I've missed my 6.
It's
And,
a Virginia.
okay,
Now, that is
you
a
guys come on
perennial.
up.
And it will turn fall reddish color, the leaves.
Is it like kind of shady?
Yes, it does like shade. Yeah, like shade. You'll love it. It's a nice plant. Do you?
Yes, I have this whole row of hostas and I fill those holes with
Good. That's a good idea. Very good.
And last year I had a real dark, yes, here it is.
Thank you.
It was about 3 different
Thank you for coming today. This has really been fun. Someone did have one more question about fertilizing,
I bet it did.
whether it's too soon
Oh,
to
you
start
got the color
fertilizing.
For limey green, this stands out really good in the garden.
And we'll ask.
You're welcome.
Sandy, do you have any feelings about whether it's too soon to start fertilizing?
Start fertilizing like your outdoor.
Yeah.
You know what, it's supposed to be getting 60 here, so I would say it's probably fine to go ahead and start. Usually when plants are in dormancy is when you don't fertilize them, but just depending on the weather, we're going to get some good good weather, so I would think that it would be fine to start fertilizing.
Any other questions? Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much for coming. We'll see you in February.